Then Shaykh al-Fawzan mentions, Unzur qawlahu, look at his statement, meaning the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ, the whomsoever turns away from the remembrance of the most merciful Allah, نُقَيِّدْ لَهُ shaytana, that we appoint for him a devil. هَذَا أَقُوبَةٌ لَهُ, so this is a punishment for him. Shaykh al-Fawzan mentions, why does Allah appoint for him a devil as his companion? As a punishment upon him. فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ, he is a qareen, or an intimate friend of his, or becomes an intimate friend of his, that devil. وَإِنَّهُمْ, the Shaykh al-Fawzan mentions, وَإِنَّهُمْ, and they, a shayateen, meaning the devils, لَيَسُدُّونَهُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِ وَعَنِ السَّبِيلِ وَيَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ, so they stand, or they become a barrier, or that they prevent from the path of Allah, yet they think that they are upon guidance. So this is the reality of individuals who turn away from the Kitab and the Sunnah, and they don't want to take their guidance from the Book and the Sunnah, and they don't want to follow the Book and the Sunnah. Then this is what happens to them as a punishment from Allah. And you see it, my brothers and sisters, in your daily lives. You'll see it, that any person you see turning away from the guidance of Allah, you see how his state becomes worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Even in our own families, we recognize this. The further a person moves away from the Kitab and the Sunnah, he doesn't want to be guided by the Book and the Sunnah, he doesn't want to follow the Book and the Sunnah, you find that this person gradually over time doesn't become better, he becomes worse. The more that he distances himself from the dhikr of Allah, and from the dhikr of Ar-Rahman, that he turns away from remembering Allah and studying the deen of Allah, and implementing the deen of Allah in his life, in his household, amongst his friends, amongst his companions, in the ability that he has, and that he, for example, doesn't pray, or that he doesn't fast, or that he doesn't read the Book of Allah, or that he doesn't ponder over the creation of Allah, or that he doesn't remember the hereafter, or that he doesn't think about Jahannam and Jannah. The more that he does that, the more he slips away, and the more that you see his condition becoming worse and worse, because shaytan has been appointed for him as his intimate companion by Allah. So it has been appointed for him, nuqayyid, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, nuqayyid lahu, that we appoint for him, meaning that Allah appoints. Why? Because he has chosen to turn away from the remembrance of Allah. So because he has chosen to turn away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah appoints for him a devil who becomes his intimate companion. And this is the reality, my brothers and sisters, with regard to the situation around us. Then when we look at our community and our society around us, we can see this living right in front of us. So we can see sometimes when we ponder over the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we can see, wallahi, we can see the truthfulness of these words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more distant you are from Allah, the more devilish you become. The more distant you are from Allah, the worse you become day after day after day. يَحْسَبُ, Shaykh al-Fawzan mentions, يَحْسَبُ الْأَتْبَاءُ أَنَّهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. So these followers, meaning the followers of the devil, the followers think that they are guided, of the devils. فَلَمْ يَنْفَعْهُمْ ذَلِكَ, yet the following of those devils does not benefit them. لَا عُذْرَ لَهُمْ فِيهِ, they have no excuse in that regard. لِأَنَّهُمْ بَلَغَتْهُمْ دَعْوَةُ الرُّسُلِ فَلَمْ يَقْبَلُوهَا. Why? Because of the fact that the message, or that the da'wah and the call and the invitation to the truth of the messengers has reached them. بَلَغَتْهُمْ دَعْوَةُ الرُّسُلِ يرحمك الله دعوة الرسل فلم يقبلوها, yet they did not, and they refused to accept that call of the messengers. So no doubt, my respected brothers and sisters, as we have mentioned, that sometimes when you read the words of the Salaf, and you read the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His book, and you read that which the ulama and the scholars, they point towards you, like the likes of Shaykh al-Fawzan in this explanation that we are going through, that you can see living examples of this type of behavior taking place. Distance yourself from Allah, and you see how a person begins to slip. And he becomes sadder. He doesn't become happier in his life. He may have moments where he feels that he is elated and overjoyed, but those moments are short. Maybe when he's drunk, or that they're dancing or singing or something like this, that they are completely, that this short burst of high that they get, that they may be happy for a few hours, then they wake up sad and depressed. And this is why they keep chasing this type of lifestyle. Why do they keep chasing it, my brothers and sisters? They keep chasing it because they think that the more that they pursue, because of these gaps that they have in between of sadness and sorrow and depression, that they are sad. And anyone who has lived that lifestyle knows how sad they are, how depressed they are, how low they are in their lives. So they keep chasing. that high or that happiness, that happy moment, whether it be in the nightclub or the bar or the pub or the drugs, whatever they're doing. So they keep chasing that because they want those moments to be more frequent. And the more frequent that you make those moments, those evil times that you have, the more frequently that you drink, the more frequently that you smoke, the more frequently that you inject these drugs into your body, or you smoke those drugs, the more frequent that you do that, or the more frequently that you visit these establishments where Allah is forgotten and the shayateen are remembered, and sin is something that a person involves himself in, the more frequent that becomes, you find that the more chaotic their lives become, up until you find them losing their insanity, losing their senses, sometimes losing their minds, and not being stable, not being able to look after their families, not being able to look after their children, not being able to even be active or productive members of the community. And then they end up in that lifestyle which they keep trying to feed. If they don't have the money, then they start stealing. Why? Because when these individuals embark upon that type of lifestyle, then shaitan becomes their intimate friend. Take examples around you, my brothers and sisters, and you will see that. If every single one of us looks at some example without naming anybody, but you look at examples in your family, you look at examples amongst your colleagues or your friends or what used to be your friends, examples within the community, you will see the reality of that which Allah has stated taking place.